Hi, my name is David Schubert and I'm an information technology major at Florida State University. Today I'm going to talk to you about the usability flaws in Microsoft's SharePoint product. SharePoint is a platform for building collaborative web pages by combining and modifying pre-built web parts. I'll be focusing on two main topics: how SharePoint organizes information and SharePoint's performance flaws in browsers other than Internet Explorer. Here is a blank new SharePoint site that I've just set up. You can see that it's got different little components here, like a shared documents section where you can add a list of documents, and this one you can add some text and stuff, kind of like a little HTML section of the page. This one will show stuff from another site, and then you can add little announcements that pull from a calendar, or actually events pull from a calendar. Announcements can expire though and go away, and then you could add links. So that's kind of how SharePoint works. There's different little pieces that you throw together to make your page. Before we even really get into this and talk about how the data is saved and how it's kind of confusing, what we're seeing right here is what you would see if you were just a user browsing to the SharePoint site, not the person who's administrating the page and adding content to it. So you can see there's some things that are kind of confusing for a user that's looking at this just as a website. Add new document, probably not something you're going to do if you're not authorized to modify this page. These little drop down arrows that would normally have options, they don't really have much for just the end user. So that's kind of confusing to begin with. Okay, so moving on, the first problem I always have with SharePoint, once you sign in, which I'll go ahead and do there, there's no link to sign out. So maybe I want to see my page as an end user would see it, and to do that you have to completely close out of the browser to clear your session and open it back up just to get back to that view where you're not logged in editing it. But you can see now that I've logged in, there is some new options to edit these different web parts. I can click these menus to modify the part. So I'm going to start with the links over here. I think that's one of the easiest ways to see how this works. So when I go in here and I can say modify shared web part to change some of the things about how it looks, where it is on the screen, that kind of thing. But that's not what we really want to look at right now. All I would want to do is just say add a new link. Okay, so let's add a new link. Go to, say, FSU. Okay. And then when you say save, it's going to add this link in here. Okay, so that's great. You can click the link and it opens, not in a new window, which is kind of an option I would like to have seen. But now, how are we going to take that link away? So you might think, well, maybe it's in this modify shared web part that we looked at before, but it's really not in there at all. This is just how the part looks, where it is on the screen. We can move it around. We could change other things about it, like whether or not the user can minimize it or close it, but we can't change the content that's inside of it. So this, I think, has been very confusing, for considering that this is marketed towards people that don't have a lot of web design experience. It's pretty hard to find where is the option to get rid of the data saved in this list of links. So actually, to change that, you have to go into the list menu over here and then find your links and then say edit this list of links, and then you can delete them. And that's not really something that I would expect someone to just intuitively figure out where that's at. So we could go in here, and again, and this is weird too, there's not really a button to delete. You have to rely on right clicking and say delete row there. Okay, so that's kind of, and then it just kind of automatically saves without telling us. So normally you'd want some kind of feedback, okay, the row has been deleted, or okay, here's a save button when you're ready to save. And it doesn't really let us know that as soon as we make a change in here, it's going to save automatically. Okay, so that's that. Now, my suggestion for how to fix this issue with how all this information is stored in these databases, which are really reminiscent of Microsoft Access, and as opposed to having options right in here to say delete a link or change a link in a list would be just to have those options. I'm logged in right now still, as we know, because there's no sign in button. And so why not have out to the side over here, delete this link, edit this link, and those kinds of things. So that's how I would recommend to fix this particular problem. Now moving on, if we look at this in a web browser on a Mac, or if we were in Firefox, in this case we're in Safari, there's some major annoyances really, and just real usability issues, because this whole system has not been optimized to work in anything other than Internet Explorer, which is really sad because it's a web-based service. It's designed for people to collaborate, and for anyone to be able to get on it. So lots of people are on Macs, and even more people are using Firefox. So anyone should be able to just get to this through their regular browser and not have issues. But we can see here, let's go ahead and sign in. Okay, so here we are at the site. So let's go over to lists where we were before and go into the links menu. Okay, so as we saw before, some of the things we want to do, like maybe delete a link, add a bunch of links in a spreadsheet view, we had to go edit in datasheet for that. Well, this just doesn't work in anything other than Internet Explorer. There's a script you can see down here when we hover over it. It's linking to a script that only works in Internet Explorer, and that's because it's bringing up a spreadsheet that's very much like Microsoft Access, and it just doesn't work outside of Windows and outside of Internet Explorer. So if I'm a Safari user and I'm in here and I add a link, there's no real way to get rid of that link. So that's a real issue. It's the same way with the document library. We go in here to the documents and say shared documents. Again, this won't open the data sheet. We can just upload documents, but we can't really delete them. And then one more thing I wanted to show, if we're logged out, which again we'll have to actually quit out of the browser and open it back up in order to just get back in as a user that's not logged in. So now, one of the things I wanted to show, we have an announcement here. Get started with Windows SharePoint services. If I was logged in, I might want to have options to edit that or delete it and other administrative type things. But even now, as a user who's not logged in, I can click on that and I see all these options. Make a new item, edit this item, delete this item. And so say I want to add another item. Announcement 2. I won't bother with an expiration date. When I try to save it, it's going to make me log in. So these things are just presented all over the site when they are completely unapplicable to the end user. They only apply to the person who's working with the site. So that's just, they're very unnecessary, in the way, and confusing.